Hello and welcome. I'm Pallavi Sharma and you're watching BIZWORLD Weekly, a show where we bring you the top stories of the week from across the world. Let's start with the market check. Indian equity indices ended on a negative note on September 19th. At close, Sensex was down 0.47% at 82,626.23 points and Nifty was down 0.38% at 25,327.05 points. BSE mid-cap and small-cap indices ended flat. Among sectors, consumer durables, media, auto, FMCG and IT shared 0.4 to 0.6%, while power and PSU Bank rose 1% each. Biggest Nifty losers were HCL Tech, ICICI Bank, Nestle, Titan, Trent, and gainers were Adani Enterprises, Adani Ports, SBI Life Insurance, Shriram Finance, and SBI. Indian rupee ended marginally higher at 88.1 per dollar on September 19th. US President Donald Trump has taken a major U-turn on India. Recently on social media, he has been very positive, and this time there was a phone call too. Trump called Modi on his 75th birthday. It was more than a birthday wish. He posted on Truth Social, and I quote from it, "Just had a wonderful call with my friend Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I wished him a very happy birthday. He is doing a tremendous job. Narendra, thank you for your support on ending the war between Russia and Ukraine." Yes, that's what he said. And you see, this is the same man who first called India a dead economy. Then he said that it is fueling the Russia-Ukraine war. Then he imposed secondary sanctions on India on top of his reciprocal tariffs and stalled the trade talks with who he called friend. Now he is appreciating the same country for its efforts to bring peace. Later, in a joint presser with the United Kingdom's Prime Minister, he said again that he is very close to India and to Modi. Well, Prime Minister Modi also replied to Trump's birthday wishes. He too called Trump his friend. He said that he is fully committed to bring India-US comprehensive and global partnership to new heights, adding that we support your initiative towards a peaceful resolution of the Ukraine conflict. So why is this U-turn coming at this time? Well, there was no other option though. Because India resisted, it did not bow down to Trump's tariffs. In fact, Modi had insisted Indians to buy Make in India goods to boost domestic consumption and in-house manufacturing as high tariff tensions with US persisted. And why would India bow down too? Because look at the numbers. India's exports on a year-on-year basis had grown 6.7% in August to $35.1 billion despite Trump's tariffs. It was a second straight monthly raise too. The trade deficit also eased to $26.49 billion from July's $27.35 billion as firms front-loaded shipments. Meanwhile, India's exports to US declined 14% month on month. So tariffs are backfiring. US inflation is fueled by tariffs well above Fed's target. Fed just reduced interest rates, citing weakness in job market. The US economy is at a stressful point, balancing between high inflation and unemployment. So trade talks have resumed now. This week, US officials were in India to discuss a trade deal, and this time the demands were different. The deal halted because US's demand for India was to open up its dairy and agriculture sector. However, now senior officials reportedly have said that US does not need complete entry into India's dairy market. It now focuses on selling premium cheese to India, including blue vein and artisanal and powdered cheese. In agriculture too, US has changed tack. This week, US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick slammed India, saying that it has 1.4 billion people, but why would they not buy US corn? US is the world's largest producer and exporter of corn, so US wants to sell it to India because it is a vast market. Another reason is that granaries in US are overflowing with unsold soybeans and corn, and low crop prices have squeezed US agricultural sector. Small farmers are now affected, and there is all of this happening because of Trump's trade war. China is the biggest buyer of US soybean, but it has not signed a single cargo from this year's soybean harvest and has turned to Brazil instead for soybean and corn. But it's a challenge for India to buy these corn and soybeans. Most of US corn is GM or genetically modified, and India neither permits import or planting of GM corn due to health and economic concerns. It is also an electoral headache for Modi government as Bihar elections are coming up. And Bihar, remember, is the third largest maize producer in India. So it's still tricky. But this time a deal may be on the cards is what officials are now indicating. Meanwhile, the secondary sanctions are still there and India is not backing down. It's purchasing more Russian oil instead because now it is even more cheaper. Till now, in September alone, India bought 173 million barrels per day of Russian oil. It's only increased from the last month, and India-Russia ties are also strong. So while India is resisting because clearly it feels bullied, Trump has to now make concessions. Just flattery will not sway away New Delhi. For starters, roll back the 55% secondary sanctions and talk trade. That's two-way and not just to US benefit like the other deals with other countries, because India is one of the most important allies for the US too. But what comes next, we'll see to that. Donald Trump's second state visit to the United Kingdom in September was nothing if not a spectacle. From golden carriages to booming military cannons, the royals rolled out the red carpet with full pomp and ceremony. King Charles, Queen Camilla, Prince William and Kate Middleton all played their part in what felt like a pageant tailor-made to flatter a president who clearly enjoys the spotlight. The carriage procession through Windsor Estate, complete with household cavalry, mounted regiment and military bands, made for a fairy tale entrance worth of, well, Trump's unmistakable taste for grandeur. The lavish state banquet at Windsor Castle was an event of historic significance. Trump is the first US president in modern times to receive a second state visit, and the long table was packed with dignitaries from technology, finance, and art. King Charles praised the so-called special relationship between the UK and the US, emphasizing their unbreakable bond forged through 2 world wars. Trump returned the compliment, calling it one of the highest honors of his life and celebrating the enduring kinship. There was ample mutual back-patting, smiles, and kind of mutual admiration suitable for the royal gala. But underneath the tiaras and military bands, it's fair to say that the monarchy mastered the art of theatrical diplomacy, rolling out the golden globe precisely to put Trump in the best possible mood ahead of the more serious discussions to come. The UK wants Trump to ease tariffs, reassure NATO, and to invest more into its economy. Meanwhile, outside London, thousands of protesters gathered, waving Palestinian flags and holding signs criticizing Trump's record on climate change and his stance on Gaza conflict. Images linking Trump to Jeffrey Epstein were projected on Windsor Castle itself, reminding that this visit carried its share of controversy and dissent alongside the pomp. But all was well on first day. Day 2 moved swiftly from glittering ceremony to strong political messaging. Trump and the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer met at Chequers, the Prime Minister's country residence, for talks that were heavy on trade and strategic partnership. During their joint press conference, Trump pledged over £150 billion in American investments in the UK through a tech prosperity deal aimed at boosting jobs and innovation. Starmer highlighted cooperation on global security issues, including a commitment to work towards resolving the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and navigating tensions around the Ukrainian conflict. However, the two leaders also acknowledged points of disagreement. Trump openly resisted Starmer's hint at recognizing a Palestinian state, calling it one of our few disagreements, maintaining his strong pro-Israel stance. On Russia, Trump claimed that Starmer had agreed to stop buying Russian oil and impose sanctions, although this was disputed by British officials, highlighting the complexities beneath the public diplomacy. The visit wrapped up with Trump expressing optimism about UK and US relations. He emphasized the unbreakable bond and priceless ties during his farewell, while Starmer sought to portray the talks as a step forward in the era of intensified Anglo-American cooperation. In conclusion, day 1 was all fancy, day 2 was serious talks, but Britain made sure that Trump was happy with their little show because they need lower tariffs and US investments to keep their economy going. The world's most valuable firm by market cap, Nvidia, is facing issues in China. The tech war between China and US is the center of it. The Cyberspace Administration of China has reportedly ordered firms like ByteDance and Alibaba to stop using and testing Nvidia's AI chips. Now, it has been a roller coaster for the company. Just a few months ago, its CEO announced that the US will allow it to resume sales of made-for-China H20 graphics processing units, reversing previous halts, and now this report has come as a shock for him. But why China wants to stop Nvidia to enter its markets now? Here's a report.
In a significant escalation of the ongoing tech tensions between the US and China, China has officially banned its leading domestic technology companies from purchasing Nvidia's artificial intelligence chips. This directive comes from the Cyberspace Administration of China, the country's internet regulatory authority, which ordered firms like ByteDance and Alibaba to immediately halt testing, cancel existing orders, and stop procuring Nvidia's latest RTX Pro 6000D server chips, customized for the Chinese market. This move marks a major step in China's broader strategy to reduce dependency on US technology imports and boost its indigenous semiconductor industry. While companies like Huawei and Alibaba have been developing their own AI chips, Nvidia remains the global leader in high-performance AI GPUs, making this ban a heavy blow to China's AI ecosystem. The RTX Pro 6000D chip was designed specifically to meet China's regulatory and market environment, aiming to circumvent earlier US export restrictions. Some Chinese firms had started testing and validation phases with Nvidia's partners, even signaling intent to procure tens of thousands of these chips. However, the regulator's order abruptly stopped these activities. For Nvidia, the ban presents serious challenges. CEO Jensen Huang, speaking at a London press conference during a US state visit, expressed his disappointment but took a diplomatic stance. "We can only serve a market if a country wants us to be," he said. Huang acknowledged the complexity of the geopolitical tensions behind this decision and described Nvidia's China business as a bit of a roller coaster. He stressed patience and reiterated Nvidia's willingness to support Chinese companies and government needs as appropriate. From the US perspective, this development adds further strain on already tense relations. The American government has imposed its own export restrictions on advanced AI chips to China. the chipmaker had already endured setbacks, including estimated revenue losses of $8 billion in the second quarter due to limited access to the Chinese market. Though some measures have eased, such as licensing permits granted earlier in 2025 with conditions on revenue sharing, Nvidia has yet to finalize sales to China under these rules. The stock market reacted swiftly, with Nvidia's shares dipping by around 2 to 3% following the announcement, reflecting investor concerns on the company's growth prospects in the world's second-largest computing market.
India and the European Union have launched the new strategic EU-India agenda this week, aiming for a transformative partnership built on 5 pillars: trade and investment, technology and innovation, security and defense, connectivity, and climate action. The centerpiece of the roadmap is the push for a comprehensive free trade agreement, or FTA, which the EU hopes to finalize by the end of this year. In 2024, goods trade between India and the EU reached $141 billion, while services trade added nearly $71 billion, making the EU India's largest trading partner. The deal goes beyond trade. Brussels and New Delhi are preparing a security of information agreement focused on collaboration in maritime security, cyber defense, and counter-terrorism. Defense Industrial Cooperation is set to grow too, with the exchanges of classified material and joint initiatives to boost production and technological capacity. The roadmap also highlights joint efforts in green hydrogen, renewable energy, decarbonizing heavy industries, and major infrastructure projects like India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, or IMEC connectivity, and climate are front and center, with ambitious sustainability benchmarks and innovation partnerships. Negotiations are going on, and negotiators have also acknowledged hurdles. EU High Representative flagged India's participation in Russian military exercises and its purchase of Russian oil as obstacles, saying ultimately our partnership is not only about trade but also about defending the rules-based international order. Despite these concerns, the direction is clear: engagement over isolation. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi also responded in an optimistic way, delighted to know about the new strategic EU-India agenda adopted today. India is ready to take the India-EU relationship to the next level. It is our shared commitment, shared goal, and shared responsibility. We remain committed to an early and peaceful resolution of Ukraine conflict. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen also underscored the significance. She said, "With our new EU-India strategy, we are taking our relationship to the next level." She promised the free trade agreement with India will be the largest deal of its kind anywhere in the world. Other key features of the deal include reinforcing supply chains, economic security, and business engagement via new forums, promoting startups and digital cooperation, with India invited to join EU science initiatives like Horizon Europe, and enhancing skill mobility and people-to-people exchange for study, research, and work, coordinating more closely on multilateral issues with joint engagement on geopolitical stability and reforms to global governance. The next milestone is the EU-India Summit in early 2026, where both sides expect to formally adopt the roadmap and set the agenda for its evolving partnership. The Poland-Belarus border is sealed due to Russia and Belarus conducting military drills near the border areas with participation of thousands of troops, drones, and tanks. Now, this has led to NATO being cautious and ramping up its defense preparedness to be ready in case of an escalation. However, China seems to be very unhappy with the border closure and has urged Poland to reopen it. But why is China even concerned? Our next report tells you.
In a dramatic turn of events, Poland has closed its border with Belarus, a move that is not only reshaping Eastern European security, but also sending shockwaves through global trade, especially China's economic connection with Europe. What triggered this closure? Rising tensions along the Polish border reached a boiling point as Russia and Belarus launched massive military exercises, known as Zapad 2025. These drills, involving over 13,000 troops, advanced drones, and simulated defense maneuvers, are taking place dangerously close to Polish territory. Only days before, Poland shot down Russian drones after they breached its airspace, escalating fears and forcing Prime Minister Donald Tusk to act in the name of national security. Poland's government insists that the border will remain sealed until it can ensure there are no more threats to its citizens. The region, already rattled since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, now faces what officials describe as very aggressive maneuvers, raising concerns for all NATO countries neighboring Belarus. But beyond politics and military drills, the consequences for international commerce have been swift and severe. 3 vital freight rail crossings, Kuznica-Białystok-Horodna, Siemieniówka-Swislak, and Tiraspol-Brest, are now shuttered. These routes are essential for Chinese exports to the European Union. A staggering 90% of rail freight between China and Europe passes through this border, making it the backbone of China's Belt and Road Initiative. In the last year alone, trade via this corridor has soared. Rail freight volumes increased by more than 10%, and the value of goods traveling this route reached nearly $30 billion. Poland's traffic exploded. Cargo volume grew over 200% in a matter of months. Now, these flows have stopped. Chinese trains are stranded in Belarus. Rerouting efforts are costly, and air or sea transport simply can't replace the speed and efficiency of rail. Industry leaders warn that even brief border closures rack up huge expenses, and as delays continue, the reliability of China's trade promises will erode. Beijing is watching closely and putting pressure on Poland to restore access. Chinese diplomats are calling for peace and a comprehensive return to normal. Still, Poland's message is clear. Until border security is guaranteed, trade must wait. As this standoff continues, China's supply chains and indeed the entire global marketplace remain in limbo, caught between military maneuvers and the new reality of Eastern European geopolitics.
This week, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia formalized a mutual defense agreement, marking a significant development in regional security. The pact states that any aggression against either country shall be considered an aggression against both, and aims to strengthen defense cooperation, joint military exercises, and overall strategic partnership. The signing ceremony in Riyadh was attended by Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and senior military officials from both countries. Now, while the details of this pact remain confidential, the intent is very clear: to provide both nations with greater deterrence in a region marked by shifting alliance and security challenges. Now, this agreement builds on long-standing military cooperation. Pakistani troops have trained and served in Saudi Arabia for decades, and both countries have engaged in joint military drills. The Defense Pact formalizes these historic ties and potentially increases Saudi Arabia's access to Pakistan's military expertise and resources, including training and advisory roles. Now, the timing is notable. Recent conflicts in the Middle East, such as Israel's strike on Doha and uncertainties about future US security guarantees in the region, have pushed Saudi Arabia to diversify its security partnerships. For Pakistan, the deal offers economic benefits through Saudi investments and solidifies its position as a strategic partner in Islamic world. So now the big question is, will Saudi Arabia help Pakistan in case of a conflict with India? New Delhi's initial reaction has been very measured and pragmatic. The Ministry of External Affairs stated, "We will study the implications of these developments for our national security as well as for regional and global stability." This approach reflects awareness of the importance of maintaining stability in South Asia and the wider region. Saudi Arabia, though, has emphasized publicly and diplomatically that the defense pact is not targeted at any particular country and has reaffirmed its strong ties with India. Bilateral trade between India and Saudi Arabia stands at over $42 billion annually, demonstrating the significance of their economic relationship compared to much lower trade volumes with Pakistan. Historically, Saudi Arabia has taken a balanced approach regarding India-Pakistan disputes, avoiding overt partiality and emphasizing dialogue and regional stability. The new defense agreement does not fundamentally alter Saudi Arabia's posture towards India. There is little evidence that Riyadh would risk its robust strategic relations with New Delhi in an event of regional tensions, while the defense pact adds a new layer of complexity to the security landscape. Actual military commitments may remain symbolic. Mutual defense agreements have been tested in the past without leading to direct intervention. This latest move signals a strengthening of Gulf's security architecture, but it is unlikely to lead to a dramatic shift in India-Saudi Arabia relations. Indian policymakers, though, are expected to quietly monitor the future developments, maintaining robust diplomacy and engagement with both partners. For now, while the deal marks a notable shift in regional alliance politics, India's strategic and economic ties with Saudi Arabia provide significant reassurance. China's economy is feeling the heat from Trump's trade war. It deepened in August with a raft of key indicators missing expectations and weak demand persisting. Beijing's campaign against industrial overcapacity also curbed output. As per the National Bureau of Statistics, retail sales last month rose 3.4% from a year earlier, missing estimates of 3.9% by various analysts. Industrial output growth also missed estimates. Why did this happen, and will China be able to meet its ambitious GDP growth target this year? Here's a report.
China is at a challenging crossroads. Recent months have seen the world's second largest economy falter, with signs of a slowdown more visible than ever before. Data from August paints a sobering picture. Industrial output in China rose by just 5.2% year-on-year, the weakest pace in the past year. Meanwhile, retail sales, a critical barometer for consumer confidence, grew by only 3.4%, the slowest uptick since November 2024. These numbers reveal a population that is spending less, businesses that are producing less, and an overall economy in distress. Unemployment is rising, with the August jobless rate climbing to 5.3%, a 6-month high. Among youth, unemployment now approaches a staggering 19%. Such figures betray the fragility of the Chinese job market and point to deeper issues of social and economic instability. But what's behind this downturn? Externally, China faces significant pressure from its ongoing trade war with the United States. Tariffs have slashed Chinese exports to America, which plummeted by 33% in August alone. This matters because the U.S. remains China's largest trading partner. In 2024, China shipped over $500 billion worth of goods to America. Any disruption to this flow hits Beijing hard, cascading down to factories, workers, and communities throughout the country. Internally, the slowdown is rooted in several persistent problems. China's property sector is mired in crisis, eroding the wealth of millions and sapping investor confidence. People are responding with caution, saving more and spending less. This fall in consumption is perhaps the most troubling aspect of the downturn, as it weakens demand for goods and services, leading to job losses and sluggish growth across industries. The government has moved to counter the slowdown with a range of policy tools: subsidies for consumers, trade-in programs offering discounts on products like electronics and appliances, and a 19-point plan to boost tourism. Banks have been directed to offer cheaper loans with interest subsidies to encourage personal and business borrowing. Authorities are pinning hopes on the underdeveloped services sector, which currently accounts for less than half of household spending, making it an area ripe for expansion. However, experts warn that these efforts may be insufficient and initiated too late in the cycle. Some call for stronger action, such as deeper interest rate cuts or a broader stimulus package, to reignite confidence and spending, with China's official target for 2025 economic growth set at 5%. Serious doubts linger about whether that goal can be achieved if current trends continue.
The humanitarian crisis in Gaza has reached catastrophic levels as of this month, with the region enduring relentless bombardment and military operations from Israel. This week, a United Nations Security Council resolution calling for an immediate, unconditional and permanent ceasefire in Gaza was backed by 14 out of 15 members, but was blocked by a United States veto, the sixth such veto since the conflict escalated. The US argued that the resolution failed to condemn Hamas and recognize Israel's right to self-defense, instead portraying the war as favoring Hamas narratives. Israeli ground assault on Gaza City has triggered a mass exodus, with hundreds and thousands of Palestinians fleeing amidst collapsing infrastructure and severe shortages of food and medicine. The Israeli military characterized the offensive as a decisive move to dismantle Hamas, reportedly engaging ground troops and targeting neighborhoods thought to be strongholds of Hamas operatives. Local health officials reported over 93 deaths in northern Gaza in a single day, while some reports say that at least 428 people have died from starvation since the conflict began. The UN estimates that more than 220,000 Palestinians have left northern Gaza in the past month alone, seeking refuge in already overcrowded and undersupplied zones further in the south. Overcrowded camps in southern Gaza lack food, water, and medical care. Aid agencies continue struggling to deliver enough supplies as Israeli military operations persist. UNICEF has warned of famine and severe psychological trauma for children, with 450,000 facing life-threatening hunger. Reaction to the crisis has been intense and divided. The Palestinian Authority and United Nations have condemned the assault, calling it a war crime and appealing for urgent international intervention. An independent commission appointed by the UN Human Rights Council released a report this week accusing Israel of committing genocide in Gaza, calling for accountability and action by the international community. Israel has rejected these accusations, describing the report as distorted and false, and dismissed calls for international judicial intervention. Legal proceedings may take years. The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for key Israeli leaders alleging war crimes and crimes against humanity, but charges of genocide remain pending, and in practice, leaders are unlikely to face immediate prosecution. The International Court of Justice is considering South Africa's case against Israel for breaching the UN Genocide Convention, but proceedings are expected to stretch into 2027 or beyond. So as global leaders keep playing the blame game, civilians in Gaza will continue to suffer one of the worst humanitarian crises in history. The US Federal Reserve has cut interest rates by 25 basis points this week. This is the rate at which the banks borrow from each other, and that impacts all your personal loans and mortgages too. Now, the decision comes even as fears of recession and high inflation persist in the country. However, it was taken on the basis of a cooling job market. In the past few months, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell was under immense pressure from Donald Trump to cut interest rates massively. It came down to even Trump firing a Fed governor and replacing her with someone he likes, raising concerns of impact on Fed's independence. Meanwhile, Fed has to do a balancing act. Tariffs have already increased prices, but if rates are cut too soon, inflation will rise further, which is already above the target, and there is no rate cut then the job market will continue to cool down. And as Powell put it, this is a risk management cut to slow the economy down as much that it cannot increase the risk of recession but also help the job market. But how does this rate cut impact you and the world? Here's a report.
The U.S. Federal Reserve cut its benchmark interest rate by 25 basis points to a range of 4% to 4.25%. The decision was driven by signs of a softening labor market, including slower job growth, a rising unemployment rate now at 4.3%, and ongoing uncertainty across consumer and business sectors. The vote was nearly unanimous, 11-1, with Governor Stephen Miron advocating for an even deeper 50 basis point cut, and policymakers signaling the possibility of 2 more cuts before the end of the year. However, inflation still slightly above the Fed's 2% target. Policymakers acted to lower borrowing costs and shore up confidence, with Chair Jerome Powell citing downside employment risks as a primary concern. The move aims to support hiring and investment at a time when economic uncertainty and inflationary pressures compete for dominance. Lower rates translate to more affordable loans and mortgages for businesses and consumers, encouraging investment and spending. However, troubling signs remain. The labor market has cooled, inflation persists, and confidence wavers. Experts warn that monetary policy alone may not stave off broader economic weakness if inflation stays high or employment worsens further. The Fed's rate cut pushed gold to a historic global high of $3,707.40. While on India's MCX, gold hit 1,10,666 rupees per 10 grams on September 16th. Market experts for short-term caution suggesting a sell position for both gold and silver, anticipating profit booking over the next 1 or 2 days amid volatility, though the longer-term outlook remains strong for both metals. Market reactions have been mixed. Wall Street's Dow Jones surged over 300 points following the announcement, while the S&P 500 and Nasdaq slipped. U.S. Treasury yields fell, and international markets rallied briefly before stabilizing. In India, equity markets responded positively, especially IT stocks. Infosys, LTI-Mindtree, Wipro, and other major IT players rose up to 3% as U.S. rate cuts improved global demand prospects and made Indian stocks more attractive for foreign investors. Both the Sensex and Nifty 50 opened higher, mirroring a positive global mood. A softer dollar will benefit Indian exporters and could strengthen the rupee, though new risks from currency volatility and capital flows remain.
Meta unveiled its latest AI-powered smart glasses at Meta Connect 2025 event this week, aiming to redefine the wearable tech landscape. However, what was billed as a showcase of future innovation was quickly overshadowed by live demo glitches, raising questions about both the readiness of Meta's hardware and the bold claim that these glasses could make smartphones a thing of the past. Meta's CEO Mark Zuckerberg introduced a range of smart eyewear, notably the Ray-Ban display glasses and the Oakley Meta Vanguard, boasting integrated artificial intelligence, real-time navigation, messaging, media streaming, and even live translation, all visible directly on the lens. Priced from $379 to $799, the glasses feature a neural waistband, the Meta Neural Band, that translates subtle hand gestures into commands, letting users control apps and devices with a flick and pinch of their fingers. According to Zuckerberg, smart glasses could create a significant cognitive advantage, freeing people from staring at their phone screens. But the demonstrations were a little embarrassing. During the much anticipated demo, things did not go according to the plan. The glasses failed twice on stage. First, during a cooking segment, the AI's recipe assistant skipped essential steps, frustrating both the presenter and the technology behind him. Despite repeated attempts to make the glasses start from the beginning, the device remained uncooperative, leaving the presenter to blame an unreliable Wi-Fi connection.
I love the setup you have here with soy sauce and other ingredients. How can I help?
Hey, can you help me make a Korean-inspired steak sauce for my steak sandwich here?
You can make a Korean-inspired steak sauce using soy sauce, sesame oil.
What do I do first? What do I do first?
You've already combined the base ingredients, so now grate a pear to add to the sauce.
What do I do first?
You've already combined the base ingredients, so now grate the pear and gently combine it with the base sauce.
All right, I think the Wi-Fi might be messed up. Sorry, back to you, Mark.
A second demo featuring Zuckerberg himself also hit a snag. The neural band, designed to turn tiny hand movements into commands, froze just as a WhatsApp video call was supposed to come through the glasses. No amount of tapping or troubleshooting could get the call work live, turning the demonstration into an unintentionally perfect metaphor for the challenges of bringing such futuristic tech to mainstream users.
So I think our call will be coming in any moment now.
Pause WhatsApp video call.
There we go. Uh-oh. Well, let's see what happened there. That's too bad. I don't know what happened. Maybe Boz can try calling me again. All right. Well, I got a missed video call. Okay, there's the actual video call. All right. I'm just going to pick that up with my neural band. This is, it happens.
So can smart glasses replace phones? Meta's vision is bold: smart eyewear that replaces or at least displaces the smartphone as the go-to personal computing device. The glasses can display text, stream social media, show navigation in real time, and even support hands-free communication. For athletes, the Oakley Meta Vanguard has advanced cameras and long battery life, making it suitable for high-intensity sports. But despite the impressive specs, high-resolution in-lens display, your gesture control, AI integration, and up to 9 hours of battery life, Meta's devices are not yet poised to render smartphones obsolete. The demo failures underscore lingering issues with real-world reliability and seamless user experience, two elements crucial for mass adoption. The consensus among analysts is that the smart glasses are a long-term play for Meta, not an immediate challenger to the smartphone's dominance. Meta hopes that these setbacks are mere growing pains on the path to the next major computing platform. While the ambition is undeniable, execution remains the obstacle. For now, Meta's glasses stand as a symbol of both the potential and pitfalls of wearable AI, a bold look into tomorrow trapped by today's technical limitations. What do you think? Let us know in the comments, and like, share and subscribe to ET Now for more such news and views. I will see you next week.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.